A hedge fund genius takes over a baseball club, puts high-tech philosophy and management style in play. It's a repeat of the movie Moneyball, and guess what? The Sox won.
They won.
In Boston. First time since, what, 1918 or something. Anyhow, they just wiped out the Cardinals, but using these techniques of analysis of pitchers. They can throw for 3 enemies, then you pull them out and everything. He had it all figured out.
Amazing.
Gentleman named Henry who bought the club. Okay, well, we're going to talk more. Baseball, let's talk more about baseball. It's more fun. But anyhow, the ongoing failures of the healthcare websites are raising bigger questions in Washington. Some people are wondering if Barack Obama is up to the job of being president.
Both the president and Kathleen Sebelius are taking responsibility for the failure of the websites, but it looks like the political damage has already been done. Ephraim Graham has the story.
There is no end in sight to the problems with the new Obamacare website, but we've got a fresh round of promises from President Obama and his point person.
We're working day and night and will continue until it's fixed.
That was not enough for lawmakers who grilled the Health and Human Services Secretary Wednesday when she appeared on Capitol Hill.
The program has crashed and burned at least 3 times, and the user is still having problems. It's been down the whole time you've been testifying.
And now there are new questions about the security of information entered on the healthcare site. Kathleen Sebelius was questioned about a memo from her department stating that the website only has a temporary security certificate, lawmakers calling it completely unacceptable. Sebelius was also asked about the number of people losing their insurance because of Obamacare.
Today's hearing is about fairness for the American people who are losing their coverage or seeing their premiums skyrocket as high as 400%.
I received a letter stating that the new health care law was indeed the reason for the removal of my current health care plan. Madam Secretary, what would you tell Sean, who liked his plan and now has lost it? And he was promised by you and the president he'd be able to keep that plan.
The Washington Post also weighed in, saying that President Obama's promise that if you like your health plan, you'll be able to keep it, rated 4 Pinocchios out of 4, which the paper defines as a whopper. Meanwhile, in Boston, the president took responsibility for the failed launch of the healthcare sites.
So there's no excuse for it. And I take full responsibility for making sure it gets fixed ASAP. We are working overtime to improve it every day. Every day.
But the president is already taking a hit in the polls. Only 42% of Americans approve of his job performance. 51% disapprove. With so many problems hitting the White House, some critics are asking if the president is simply incompetent. Under fire for the website disasters and secret international spying on the heads of state of friendly countries. The New York Times said, quote, "In both instances, his explanation roughly boils down to this: I didn't know. As a matter of politics, Mr. Obama's plea of ignorance may do less to deflect blame than to prompt new questions about just how much in charge he really is." Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Boy, when you lose the New York Times and the Washington Post, the liberal bastions, what does he have left? Folks, it's the failure of the progressive philosophy. He doesn't have skill in management. He never managed anything. He's a community organizer who's a one-term senator. He didn't have any experience in running a business. He didn't have any experience in running a state. He doesn't have any executive ability, but he is a dedicated progressive. He is an ideologue of the first order, and what his plan is to put in place his ideology. And the thing is, it doesn't work. Well, the Obama administration is also dealing with fallout from another scandal. Let's go back to Ephraim for that story.
Well, Pat, Germany wants answers on allegations the National Security Agency spied on Chancellor Angela Merkel. Officials from Berlin came to Washington for a meeting with President Obama's counterterrorism and national security advisors, as well as the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. They demanded the Obama administration stop spying on its allies. Clapper told Congress this week that spying on leaders of allied countries is a long-time practice in the intelligence world. A monster of a Halloween storm is expected to hit the middle of America. Strong winds and torrential rain are forecast today from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. Meteorologists say isolated tornadoes are also a possibility. In Macon County, Missouri, conditions got so bad overnight, cars and trucks were forced off the road. Parents say the weather is making them change their Halloween plans.
I have 6 kids. I don't want to drag them all out in pouring rain, so I'm considering just buying some candy, and that way they'll have candy even if we don't make it out the house.
Officials warn trick-or-treaters who do plan to brave the weather to be careful of water-covered roadways. Iraq would like some help from America 2 years after the U.S. pulled out of the country. It now wants Washington to provide more weapons, training, and manpower. Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki says his country needs help to fight a resurgent al-Qaeda. He'll make that case to President Obama tomorrow in a meeting at the White House. Suicide bombers have launched nearly 40 strikes in the last month, and more than 5,000 Iraqis have been killed in attacks since April. The Iraqi ambassador told the Associated Press, "We have said to the Americans we'd be more than happy to discuss all options short of boots on the ground." Pat, is that the option?
The option would have been not to have gone into that wretched place to start with. George Bush oversold that deal. He really did. He wanted that war in the worst possible way. $1 trillion expense, loss of many lives, and what has it accomplished? The country's in tatters. It's facing a Muslim insurgency. The Christians are being driven out of the country. It's in a mess. And the man he put in charge of that effort was just a disaster. He didn't know what he was doing, so we've had incompetence up and down the line. Our government just ain't up to the challenge. It just isn't. I wish it were, because we hope for the best. This is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. But what was it, Jimmy Carter, that said, "You deserve leaders that are as good and noble as you are"? Well, we deserve leaders that have as much sense as the American people, and we haven't gotten them recently. Ephraim.
Pat, San Diego police say they will file charges after a sexting scandal swept through area schools. Several teenage girls started sending nude photos of themselves to their boyfriends. Soon, those photos made it to students in 7 other schools. Now, at least 30 students from 6 high schools and 1 middle school are involved.
The individuals took pictures of themselves in very compromising positions, exposing various parts of their body, and very, unflattering.
Possessing and distributing these types of images is considered child pornography. All of those being investigated are minors and could face felony charges. Well, we all know the classic American song, Yankee Doodle Dandy. Now it's also the title of a children's book written by Callista Gingrich, the wife of former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. It is the 3rd installment of her series, this time focused on the American Revolution. She recently sat down with David Brody on his show, The Brody File.
The series goes on and on. I mean, you're back with another book. Tell us about Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Well, Yankee Doodle Dandy is the 3rd volume in my Ellis the Elephant series. And this series offers a guided tour of American history for 4 to 8-year-olds. And in Yankee Doodle Dandy, Ellis the Elephant discovers the American Revolution and how we became a free and independent nation.
Now, interesting. Now, the American Revolution, there was quite a few, let's just say, violent outbursts during the Revolution. This is a book for kids, though. So how do you kind of maneuver through that, at least from an illustrated point and also from writing the book?
Yes, well, it is a war after all. Yeah. And what I'm intending to do is to tell the truth, and yet these books are written for 4 to 8-year-olds. So we do have the shot heard around the world in Concord at the Old North Bridge. And I treat it in a way where Ellis looks exasperated. He's not too frightened and he's not happy, but he is exasperated. And we have to tell the story of the American Revolution. Our children really need to learn about the patriotic heroes and the remarkable revolution they led so they can begin to appreciate the greatness of this nation.
Talk to me about your heart on this issue. I mean, where is this in terms of the importance for kids today? Explain to me a little bit about this pro-America, or at least lack of American history that our kids are not learning today.
Right. Well, I write these books because I do love America, and I believe we are an exceptional nation. And I think it's more important now than ever that our children understand what makes this country so special. And unfortunately, many of our students are failing to learn American history, including our founding principles and values, and instead learning revisionist or politically correct history. And as a result, they really have no idea about the basic history of our nation. And if we look at some of the statistics today, surveys show that only 1 in 3 fourth graders can identify the purpose of the Declaration of Independence. Fewer than half of all fourth graders know why George Washington was an important American figure. So we really have some work to do, and we owe it to our kids to give them the tools they need to truly appreciate the greatness of this nation.
And you can see more of David's interview and get the latest in political news by checking out the Brody File at our website, cbnnews.com. Well, the Boston Red Sox are celebrating their 3rd World Series title in a decade. They beat the St. Louis Cardinals 6-1 in Game 6 at Fenway Park last night. Just last winter, Boston was considered the underdog, having finished their season in last place. Many fans say this is what they needed after the Boston Marathon bombing attacks earlier this year. The Red Sox wore Boston Strong logos on their left sleeves and dedicated the win to fans and victims of the marathon tragedy. I'm a Yankee fan, but hats off to Boston today. Pat?
I used to be a Yankee fan when I was a kid, and they had guys like Joe DiMaggio and Babe Ruth and people like that. And as a little boy, they were my heroes. But later on, your heroes vanish.
Yeah.
Now it's Moneyball. I mean, it's Moneyball. You analyze the pitcher. He's good for 3 innings. You pull him out at the end of the 3rd inning. He begins to get weak, and if you put him in the 4th inning, he'll throw a slow pitch, and somebody will hit one over the fence. I mean, it's also
there's a science to it now.
Oh yeah. I mean, and if you ever saw that movie, did you see the movie Moneyball?
I didn't see that one.
Oh, it was kind of interesting. Brad Pitt starred with a big wad of tobacco in his mouth as the manager who played Moneyball.
Syria has completed the destruction of the equipment used to produce chemical weapons. But now comes a bigger task, destroying Syria's huge weapons stockpile. Syria is believed to have around 1,000 metric tons of chemicals and weapons, including mustard gas and the nerve agent sarin. In September, the UN Security Council adopted a resolution requiring Syria to give up its arms. The resolution was in response to Damascus' poison gas attack in August that killed hundreds of people. Franklin Graham says hundreds of thousands of Christians plan to invite their friends to watch the telecast of My Hope America with Billy Graham. It will be shown a week from today on Billy Graham's 95th birthday. He spent months recording the video. Franklin Graham says his father was unscripted and comes across like a grandfather, sharing the gospel and inviting viewers to trust Jesus Christ as their Savior. And you can find out more about that program and get the latest from CBN News by going to cbnnews.com.